If 50 plus 1 was good enough for Brexit, then it's good enough for anything else, right? So that's what a majority is. So he says because it's not clearly defined, it's not defined in the Good Friday Agreement. Well, I can't believe this idea has got legs at all. 1, 2, 1, 2. Test. Microphone on. Camera on. Alrighty. There we go. Boom. Welcome to Politics, Culture and Some Other Shit. Excuse me. I'm a little bit hoarse today. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the video. If you're going to watch this on YouTube. If you want to do that. Like, share, subscribe, please. That would be great if you could do that. And if you want to lend me your support over on Patreon, you can do that for as little as £1 a month. Not much. And it really helps. It really does. It's a very useful way of supporting what I'm doing here, which is what? To try and bring certain perspectives to your earballs, using the common man's language, because I am no scholar, as you fucking know, and that's all I'm trying to do. Just dissect the world a little bit for you and share my thoughts, I suppose. This is the best way I can explain what it is I'm trying to do. So, yeah, real quick, I've got gigs coming up. I'm playing all these. You can go to the bonnevilles.co.uk and get tickets for all of these. Up on the screen there you can see. First one is Sunday the 20th of November, which is this Sunday coming. We're playing the Atlantic Bar in Portrush as a part of the Atlantic Sessions. But earlier in the day, as you can see on the screen, I'm playing a part of a gig in Portrush Town Hall with Roe, Kieran Lavery, Sunday session introduced by BBC's Ralph McLean. Like they own him, BBC's Ralph McLean. You know, they keep him in a box and let him out every now and again. Ralph's a great guy. A great supporter of me, by the way, and the band and the Bonnevilles. Always has been, right from the very start. I'm a session. The last time I seen him, excuse me, he asked me to do a session, a Bonneville session for him. We can just record it ourselves, which is great, because I don't like what the BBC do with our sessions. Everyone's too sanitised, and we can never let rip. You have to turn everything down, and that's just a fucking nuisance. And then you've got to drag everyone up 3 flights of stairs and to paint the hole. So we've been asked a few times recently to do them, and we've sort of refused. We went no, because we don't like the way they sound. So Ralph just says, well, you record it yourself. Record it in your studio and send it to me. So that's what we're going to do. And then we've got a gig in Belfast in the Voodoo Christmas gig, 22nd of December, with the Exhalers and Aqua Tofana in support. That's going to be class. Looking forward to that. Haven't seen either of those two bands live, so it's going to be a lot of fun for me. And go to the bonnevilles.co.uk for tickets. Right, done. Oh, no, and then my own gig. So I've that gig coming up. Yeah, the 29th of January in the Sunflower Bar. Me, solo, with my band. I've made a new band. My cousin Laura, my daughter, Summer, Joseph Toman and Jared Skelly. Summer's playing bass, Jared Skelly on percussion. It's going to be great. I'm really excited. There are a few tickets left. It'll sell out as well, so you should get on that. And it's going to be a wee bit different too. I'm going to try and do some audio-visual stuff if I can get the time to throw the videos together. So there we go. That's all that done. What do you think of my hat? Those of you guys that are listening to this won't get the hat reference, but I've got a cool hat on. It's from a venue that we played. You can see it there, Aramon Gard, which is Norwegian for Aramon Farm. And we played this class venue. And the guy gave me some merch, and he gave me this cool hat. And then we played a couple of days later, and I loved it. I like the hat. It fitted me because I have a big, massive head. And it's hard for me to get a hat that fits well. But that one did. And then we went and played, a couple of days later, we played in a town called Mo i Rana. and we kind of hung out with some people after the gig. Had a few drinkies. We left with them. Well, he said cheerio to them, and as we were saying cheerio, he did a hat swap. So he gave me his hat for the other Armangard, and I didn't want it, but it was a really nice hat. It was like a really expensive Norwegian mountaineer's hat cap. Fucking thing, it's brilliant. It's a really proper cap. I think it would be about 50 or 60 quid. Whereas this would only be a few pound, a few euros at most. But it fitted me well. That was the point. And I didn't want to swap. But he was drunk and he was being all, no. I went, oh, fuck off then. Okay, take it. So I contacted Per at Armangard. I sent him an email. I told him, I said, listen, Gay took a hat. Can I have another one? And he said, yeah. So he sent me one. And this is it. But it doesn't fit the same, because these things are all different. But it's still a nice hat. Okay, so there we go. That's the hat done. So we're going to get into this. We're going to talk about the DUP. Going to talk about the midterm elections in America very briefly. The main story is going to be about the DUP. And what else did I have teed up? Oh yeah, and Elon Musk. Excuse me. I'm sure that sounded horrible. Elon Musk tanking Twitter, which is fucking hilarious. We'll get into that first. We'll do that first. Yeah. So let's do it. So Elon Musk is tanking Twitter. Why is he tanking Twitter, Andrew? Well, let me tell you. So, throw this up. Hopefully, that'll be... There we go. Boom. Done. Blue check unavailable after imposter accounts erupt on platform. So one of the things that Elon Musk is a fucking arsehole. The people make him out like he's a nice guy or something is insane. Do you remember him talking about we coup whoever we want from Bolivia because he wanted to steal their lithium? Lithium is a key product in the manufacture of what? Batteries. Who needs batteries? Electric car manufacturers need batteries, and Elon Musk, as we know, owns Tesla. So he's not a nice guy. And then they make the other thing as well is they make him out like he's some sort of self-made genius. He inherited a fortune from his father's emerald mine in South Africa. That's about as racist a fucking enterprise as you can get. Seriously. It's insane. But people being worshippers of celebrity fall for this crap. So, but there we go. So here's the article. It's a really quick one. It's from The Guardian. Twitter relaunched a premium service which grants a blue check verification to anyone that wants to pay $8 a month, you see. So, if you're on Twitter and you have a blue check, that means your identity has been verified by the people at Twitter. It means then that people can't claim to be you and say things on your behalf that you don't endorse. So if you're a person of note, or if you're a company or a corporation or whatever, I suppose it's important because Twitter is quite is a huge platform, one of the big three really, and so the blue check mark is kind of important really. So Musk takes over Twitter, and one of the first things he does is he introduces a service where he says if you want to keep your blue check mark, you have to pay $8 a month. Now this has resulted in a bit of a migration from people abandoning Twitter now going to another platform called Mastodon. It's a Twitter-like social media platform, and people are leaving Twitter to go to it. I personally couldn't give a fuck. I like Twitter, actually. I think I like it. I get a lot of my news from it. I do enjoy it. People do find it quite toxic, but I think if you have the ability to ignore, and don't be an asshole, really. If you're not an asshole and you can ignore what people say, I don't find it toxic at all. But then I'm not famous or anything, so I don't have people coming after me like that. So, but anyway, so the problem is, and he relaunched. So if you pay this $8 a month, then you get your blue check. But what it meant was it was a series of imposters, and it's actually resulted in some hilarity. So here we go. Twitter relaunched a premium service which grants blue check verification labels to anyone willing to pay $8 a month, and it was unavailable Friday after the social media platform was flooded by a wave of imposter accounts approved by Twitter. Before billionaire Elon Musk took control of the social media platform 2 weeks ago, the blue check was granted to celebrities and journalists verified by the platform precisely to prevent impersonation. Now anyone can get one so long as they have a phone or credit card and $8 a month. An imposter account. After an imposter account registered under the revamped Twitter Blue system tweeted that insulin was free, pharmaceutical giant Eli Lilly and Co. had to post an apology. Nintendo, Lockheed Martin and Musk's own Tesla and SpaceX were also impersonated, as well as the accounts of various professional sports figures. I'll show you some of those in a second. For advertisers who have put their business on Twitter on hold, the fake accounts could be the last straw, as Musk's rocky run atop the platform, laying off half the workforce and triggering high-profile departures, raises questions about survivability. There are now 2 categories of blue checks, and they look identical. One includes accounts verified before Musk took the helm, and it notes that this account is verified. So there we go. So anyway, so that's you've got the gist. Now, what happened as well was Musk. So a lot of Twitter staff are actually in Ireland. They're employed in Ireland. So he ordered everyone to go back to the office. So no more working from home, right? Now, big problem. Ireland is in the middle of a housing crisis created and manufactured by the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael duopoly that have controlled the state since its foundation. There's a bit of a homelessness crisis in Ireland at the minute. Has been for years, been building for years. Hedge funds coming in, buying up tranches of housing, etc., etc. And it's resulted in a housing crisis, right? So he's told everybody, that they have to come into Dublin to go to work, which is what Twitter's headquarters is in Ireland. No one can live in Dublin. You couldn't rent a house in Dublin. You would need to be Elon Musk. You would need to have his resources to rent a house in Dublin. So everyone was like, we can't go. There's thousands of them, all expected overnight just to go start working in Dublin. A lot of the people that were employed over the COVID lockdowns as well, precisely because they could work from home. Right? So the man's an idiot. So here we go. Here's some of the blowback. Where are we? There's one. I'll show you that. So this is I'll show you that last because there's a wee article about that one I want to show you. That's the one for those of you listening. It was the Chiquita Bananas. I know. What does that mean? I'll tell you in a sec. So there's AIPAC. AIPAC is the American Israel something company corporation council. Yeah. American Israel, don't know what the P stands for, don't know what the A stands for, council. C stands for council. Basically, it's an Israeli lobby group. And they're very powerful in America. Very powerful across the world. But anyway, so they've tweeted out one of these fake accounts. So someone has opened a fake account under what I've just described, under Musk's new system. We love apartheid. I'm sure that didn't go down very well. Israel being the apartheid state that it is. Ted Cruz Ted Cruz is a senator from Texas, and he's a particularly slimy cunt. I'm reminded of the first time I ever held my child, how beautiful she looked and tasted. And then, as it was mentioned in the article, Eli Lilly, they tweeted out, or a fake account tweeted out, that they're going to make insulin free, which it should be free anyway. As we know, in America, they charge hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a shot of insulin. Everywhere else in the world, it's for free. Bankrupting people, and in worst cases, actually killing people, because they're having to ration their insulin, and then it results in them not getting enough, and then they die. So somebody tweeted out, and it resulted in a share dip at Eli Lilly. They had a share dip on the stock exchange, which is, and the same thing happened with Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin, someone did a fake Lockheed Martin account, and then they announced that they were going to stop selling weapons to Saudi Arabia because they're a horrible regime, etc., human rights and all this. Obviously, Lockheed Martin don't give a fuck about the likes of that, and they wouldn't do that. But it resulted in a 6% dip in the share price for Lockheed Martin. Now, that to me is indicative of something else as well, of how unstable the capitalist economic system is, that someone can do that on Twitter and it results in a 5 to 6% drop in a share price of a huge corporation. I mean, that must be billions of dollars just wiped out off that share price. I'm sure it's recovered, but it's indicative of the instability. And Richard Wolff always says that. One of his the Marxist economist, one of his sort of talking points, he talks about the instability of capitalism, which is a Marxist talking point too. Marx makes that point. But the way Richard Wolff puts it, he says if you had a roommate that was as unstable as capitalism, you would have moved out years ago. And it's true. I just thought that was just a side note. I just thought that very interesting, that all it took was for someone to do a fake Twitter account, billions wiped off the share prices of certain companies. So it's just a little side note for you. Now this is the one I wanted to get into with you a little bit. Chiquita bananas, right? Chiquita, someone has a fake account, Chiquita Brands. They got their wee tick, wee Chiquita banana logo. By the way, do you know what Ireland's biggest export is? You're not going to believe it. Bananas. Hi, Andrew. I'll tell you. They're brought in, and they're put in big, massive warehouses. The green bananas that you see. They're getting fucking greener and greener every time you go to the shop. And then they move through these huge warehouses, and then they're processed out the other end, and they're technically an export then. They're not just imported, stored. They're not just imported, turned around and shipped out. They're imported, they go through a process of ripening, and then they're exported out. So their bananas are actually Ireland's biggest export. There you go. I don't know why I know that. I don't know why you need to know that. But you know it now. And if anyone ever asks you a question in a pub quiz, what is Ireland's biggest export? Somebody else is going to say something else like beef or Guinness or whiskey. And you're going to be sitting there, a big smart arse, and you're going to go, bananas. And then what's going to happen is someone's going to accuse you of cheating. Because that's what fucking happens. When you pull a rare one like that out of your hole, everyone accuses you of fucking cheating, which has happened to me loads of fucking times, because my head is full of this sort of shit. But anyway, so Chiquita Bananas have the fake account tweeted out, "We have just overthrown the government of Brazil." And then the follow-up tweet, "We apologise to those who have served a misleading message from a fake Chiquita account. We have not overthrown a government since 1954. So that was a different account. Someone else set up a different Chiquita Bananas fake account. Now, to what do they refer? So, have you ever heard of the United Fruit Company? Well, you're about to. So, the United Fruit Company. Here we go. Just throw it up on the screen for you. Browser. There you are. I should move that up a bit, actually. So there's the history of the United Fruit Company. So, check this out. So, the reference in 1954, the United Fruit Company built its empire across Central America in Honduras, Panama, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Guatemala. Obviously an American company, okay? The United Fruit Company was an American company, okay, in the business of bananas. They even got the United States government to promote bananas in the diet of Americans. Very powerful. Under the dictator George Ubico, Guatemala became known as a banana republic. That's where that comes from. That phrase, a derogatory name for a poor developing country that relies on one export for their economy. In this instance, bananas. The dictator Ubico was known not to work for the economic interests of Guatemalans. The United Fruit Company owned 42% of all the land in Guatemala. They owned and monopolised not only the banana industry, it also owned the privatised the telegraph and telephone systems of most of the railroads. Now, Ubico was forced out of office after 13 years of dictatorship following the Guatemalan Revolution of 1944. A new constitution was adopted. Taking inspiration from the United States Constitution, Guatemala held its first truly democratic election in all of its history. Dr. Juan Jose Arevalo was elected, and as president of Guatemala, he was then succeeded by Colonel Jacobo Arbenz in 1951. Now, Arbenz is the interesting one. In another democratic election, Arbenz, with the intention of increasing political participation and giving all citizens a voice, allowed communists, about 4,000 in the country, to participate in electoral politics. Despite such a small number of communists in a country of 3 million people, the United States government was not happy with this decision by Arbenz in the midst of the Cold War, well, at the beginning of the Cold War, and so close to home. We know that every time a socialist gets their head above a parapet, especially in South or Central America, the Yanks will just kick it clean off. And a last straw for the United States was Decree 900, a proposal by Arbenz to redistribute the undeveloped, privately owned land of the wealthy to 90% of Guatemalans who were farmers without land. A year into his presidency, Arbenz expropriated 225,000 acres of land, paying the landowners for this land and redistributing it to the landless and rural farmers. This expropriation by the Arbenz administration made the United Fruit Company unhappy. I bet it did. Arbenz's administration seized 40% of their land for less than they wanted, though they were compensated by that year's tax assessment value. They wanted to be compensated for the market value. It led to the United Fruit Company to lead a Guatemalan anti-communist propaganda campaign in the United States media. The Eisenhower administration, feeling conflicted, although they were alarmed by Arbenz's actions, he vowed as president that he would reduce military spending, and he didn't want to make the West look weak by attacking a Western ally. So instead of directly intervening, now we're getting into the meat and potatoes, Eisenhower used the newly founded CIA to overthrow Arbenz. The CIA was created in part for spying on world leaders. Operation PB Success was the name of the mission to overthrow Arbenz. The CIA enlisted anti-Arbenz military leader Carlos Castillo Armas. Armas was a member of the National Liberation Movement, a right-wing party in Guatemala. And on June 17, 1954, Armas led a coup d'etat against Arbenz with the help of just 150 soldiers alongside the United States and the CIA. The CIA was able to jam local radio stations with their propaganda messages. American pilots bombed Guatemala City. The CIA installed spies within the Guatemalan government and military, giving Arbenz and his supporters no chance of success. Arbenz had the impression that the United States was an ally who would protect him and the country during the attack, so he turned to them for help, not knowing that they had orchestrated the entire thing. 10 days later, Arbenz resigned from his presidency, fled Guatemala. He was then replaced by Armas, by the CIA, and he was called a liberator. This is an important historical event and important to our learning about modern Latin America, because coups have been a large part of the history of many Latin American countries and help explain the distrust that many governments have of the United States. Moreover, the failure of these governments and initiatives are often blamed on the governments of Latin America when they are seldom given the chance to succeed before there's an intervention in the name of stopping communism, or today, socialism. So there you go. So that's what that tweet was referencing. Isn't that interesting? United Fruit Company. You think they'd just be a business selling bananas, but no, it's not. Bananas is the widget that they make, manufacture, sell. They can be anything, doesn't matter. They're huge, still are. Excuse me. As I said, I'm a little bit hoarse. So there you go. So Twitter's fucked. I don't care. I do use Twitter, as I said, but I don't give a shit if it goes down. I hope they all go down. I hope Facebook goes down. I hope Twitter goes down. I hope YouTube shits itself too. Because these companies have monopolised the fucking internet. And when I say that, what they do is, like, so for example, WhatsApp. We know WhatsApp is owned by a company that owns Facebook and Instagram. WhatsApp was just a wee messenger app. It wasn't particularly massive. Do you know how much Facebook paid for that back in the day? $20 billion. It's insane. Massively overpaid. And this is they do. Instagram was the same. Massively overpaid for Instagram. Massively overpaid for all these things. And what they do is just monopolise these good ideas. And the little businesses that sort of start up, these startups, maybe start with an intention. But when somebody comes and makes you an offer like that, you literally can't say no. You know, you can't. It would be impossible to say no. And then there's also under certain laws, if you've got shareholders, you have to provide best value. So even if you wanted to keep the company yourself, someone comes in with a massive offer like that, you would actually be, I think it's actually a criminal offence in America to say no to it. You have to take it, which is why you get these things. You know, you see like buyouts of companies, hostile takeovers and things like that. That's what that is. These businesses or funds or banks or whatever it is, they can go and massively overpay for a particular business, and you can't. If you've a board and shareholders, you literally cannot say no. Which is why how Musk got Twitter. He overpaid for it. The board was they literally have to say yes. They go, okay, yeah, we have to take it, even if they don't want to. Now, here's another little interesting thing. Just while we're on South America, and then we're going to go to the midterms in America, and then we're going to finish with the DUP thing. So, those of you who are listening to this, you won't see this, but I'm going to play it to you anyway. There's it there. Put the sound up. So what we have on screen is a little video of Nicolas Maduro, president of Venezuela, meeting Emmanuel Macron, the president of France. Now, I should throw this up for you too. So let's do this. I'll get a wee picture here for you. Where is it now? I did so. So, sorry, I'm just trying to find you. No? I'm trying to find a picture of Emmanuel Macron meeting Guaido, but I can't seem to do that. So just bear with me, just give me 1 wee second. Will you stop fucking doing? Jesus Christ. Just go to Twitter, you fucking cunt. Okay. No, it's not going to happen. Don't worry about it. So, what I'm trying to show you, what I'm trying to share with you here is, so you can see in the video they're talking, he's talking Spanish, Macron's obviously talking French, they've got a translator. Now, it doesn't show you what they're saying, it doesn't matter, it's not important, I've seen it translated, it's just boring. We want to talk about, we need to talk more about this, about that and the other, right? So the reason that this is important, and you see here in the video, when they shake hands, when they leave, Macron tries to do the power move over the top. So we know this body language shit, right? Hands on the top, so you shake hands and you put your hand in, that he's the alpha then. Maduro doesn't let him away with, watch. Yeah, see? Twists his hand round. Yeah, right? That's classic fucking... that's classic body language shit going on right there, right? So, now the reason that this is notable is Maduro being the president of Venezuela. Venezuela sits on top of what? The biggest oil reserves in the world. True story. Bigger than Saudi Arabia even, right? So recently, there's been a bit of a significant red wave in Latin America, and Maduro is a socialist, and they're redistributing the wealth more, and they're doing things like that, being, as the Americans refer to in the Monroe Doctrine, in our backyard, which is how America thinks of Latin America, which gives them the moral right to intervene in these countries as they see it. They're obviously, they don't have that, but they claim to have that. They can't have, well, put it this way, there's oil under the fucking country, so we know the Americans think about oil. You've got oil, you're about to get some freedom. And so the West, being the US and Europe, put sanctions on Russia, basically shooting themselves in the foot. Europe, in particular, being affected, is being deindustrialised. It technically is being deindustrialised by the sanctions that they put on Russia. It hasn't worked. Some other people have just bought the Russian gas, the Russian oil, the Russian products. Russia has said even that if you want it, you have to pay it for it in rubles, no more dollars. So, take that down. So, that's a threat to the US hegemony, the US monopoly of the world. The petrodollar is now under threat. There's the BRICS economies. BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, right? They've set up their own trading partnership. Now you've got BRICS Plus. Other people looking into it. Venezuela, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, believe it or not, are looking to join this. So this is a threat to the unipolar world, as we call it, as it's referred to. So, in an attempt to control, own, distribute Venezuela's oil, it's a particular type of heavy crude oil, by the way, and it has to go through there's only certain refineries that can actually handle it. One of them is owned by the Koch brothers in America. It's in Texas, I think. But a part of the sanctions operations that's going on against Russia is it's led to a diesel shortage in the US. So the solution is Venezuela, right? So now all these countries, so so what they did was they tried to orchestrate, as I've just read to you from the United Fruit Company, that example in Guatemala, and another coup d'etat a few years ago, you remember, and they tried to install a puppet president called Juan Guaido. who is still a free man, still living in Venezuela. That Maduro hasn't arrested him and put him in jail for the rest of his life is a testament to him. But Maduro's obviously a smart cookie, and he's playing the game of, of global politics. He understands it. He understood it well, and he survived this. And they actually, he has survived, and he's, but also a part of what they had to endure was sanctions as well, which took a heavy toll. They reckon that there was medical supplies and stuff like this, especially over COVID, unable to be imported into Venezuela. Very evil. Sanctions are horrible. It's warfare by another name. But nonetheless, Maduro has survived it. So now, forward a couple of years, you end up with the sanctions in Russia, a global oil and gas supply shortage, crises. Who do they have to turn to? Venezuela. So Joe Biden has already sent envoys down to Caracas to talk about buying oil and gas from Venezuela. And there's Macron. And that's what he's talking about. We need to talk. That's what it is. Talking about buying the oil and gas. Now, Macron was one of the very first leaders to recognise Juan Guaido, as they call it, the rightful president of Venezuela, despite the fact that he has never run for election as a president. He is some sort of a councillor or something like that. But so this is Macron, being the slimy neoliberal World Economic Forum toad that he is, and it's pathetic, but it's great to see. So play it there again. It's great to see, and I love that. And I know you guys that are listening to this can't see it, but when they go to leave and they do the handy shake thing, and Macron tries to alpha male him over the top there. That's it there. That's the move. And I love that. And Maduro just flips it. No fucking way, buddy. I'm in charge. You want my oil? I'll sell you the oil. We need the money. You're going to be paying for it, though. And by God, are they? Fantastic. So, here we go. Let's get on to the next story here. What's APEC? Oh, yeah. The midterms. That was it. The midterms in America. The elections. Boom, boom. There it is. Let me see if I can just tidy this up for you on the screen. There. So let me just move that over. That's it. So, as you know, in America, they have elections every 4 years for the presidency. And then they have, in the middle of that, the midterm, right? The mid of the 4-year presidential term. 2 years after the presidential elections, you have the midterms. And that's for all the other seats. So the senators, the House, so the way they have it in America. And by the way, if there's any Americans listening to this, if I'm going to mangle your political system, this is not an in-depth fucking deep dive. I'm skimming here. So if I get the odd point wrong, let me know, but be gentle. So this is live and updated. This is the live browser from Google that you're seeing. So they've got the Senate, then the House, and then they've got we call it gubernatorial races for the governor of the state, and then ballot measures. So the ballot measures are the individual states have their own. They can put their own issues on the ballot, so you can you vote for the senator and you vote for the member of the House that you want to choose for your district or your state or whatever. You vote for the governor, and then you can also have legalize for example, ballot measure could be legalize marijuana or ban abortion or all that sort of stuff, right? All the individual issues depending on that are related to the state, right? So this is live. I think there's a couple of outstanding results still, because the American political system, excuse me, America, I hope you don't mind me saying this, is a fucking disaster. Everybody else in the world can count votes. You just don't seem to be able to do it very well. And when you don't do it, you usually end up with someone like George Bush in power, arguing about, because you got into an argument about whether this was a vote or that was a vote. So, oh no, well, you can hover over these maps. So there we go. Yeah. So the Senate results: 48 Democrats, 48 GOP. GOP means Grand Old Party. That's the Republicans. So they're the right wing, and the Democrats are supposed to be the liberals of the left. They're not left at all. They're fucking very right wing. Everywhere else in the world, they would be a right wing party, but in America, they're left wing. They're considered left wing. The House, 203 for the Democrats, 212 for the GOP. They've gained 7 seats. So that means they take control. So they need 218 for a majority. So there's more seats to be counted, or to be declared. Is there? I think so. And then governor, 23 Democrats, 25 GOP. Ballot measures, we won't go into that. So that's the sort of state of play with regards to the American election. Oh, there's the, yeah. Yeah, so I should have showed you that as well. So that was regards the, we've done it. So, now, what I'm going to show you is... So what I'm going to show you is a video from Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is a comedian and a podcaster and a YouTuber, and he's I like him. I like him a lot. He explains American politics. He's a very clever guy, I think. But he's basically, his position is it's a uni party. There's no difference. And this is the reason that I always say this about one of the reasons that I sort of watch American politics at all is because I can see certain similarities, but you see them in advance. It's like looking into a time machine, or being able to, you can go, right, this is what we're going to be doing in 10 years. And you can see that. And you can see it being played out. It's actually being played out quicker and quicker and quicker. And then the more you understand the American system, when you start to see certain things happening here, and then you start to realise, like, even, like, the past couple of years, like, even political campaigns, Build Back Better and all that shit, that all come from America, but they used it here. They used it in the UK. The same slogans, the same campaigns, they're just being recycled, and it's fucking creepy. It's quite dystopian, but so it is one of the reasons why I do tend to follow American politics quite closely. So anyway, so Jimmy Dore is a podcaster. See now, there we go, I want that off. And a comedian, and he's very good. And he's gonna, this little video is a little supercut of him basically ripping someone a new one. The person that he's ripping is another comedian as well, called Bill Maher. They call him Bill Maher in America. Maher, M-A-H-E-R, Maher, Bill Maher. It's Bill Maher, Billy Maher. That's what he would be over here. So Bill would be considered, I used to like him too, but he's gone off the reservation in recent years, basically becoming a bit what we refer to as a shit lib. And doesn't mean he's always wrong, but he's wrong more often than he's right, in my opinion, these days. So this is Jimmy basically laying it out for Bill. Bill commented on something about the narrative that was being presented to the people was the choice. you have to choose to vote. If you vote by the Democrats, you're voting for democracy. You're voting for decency and stability and all this sort of stuff. But the reality is, and Jimmy's going to lay it out, it's the uni party. They're all the fucking same. They're all as bad as each other. Check it out.
Honest to God is really the most important election ever. So, okay, yes, you should vote. And it should be for the one party that still stands for democracy preservation.
At first, I thought he was joking. He's not joking. The democracy in the United States was stolen a long time ago, Bill, which is why 80% of workers live paycheck to paycheck. Half the country can't afford a $400 emergency. And workers haven't had a raise since 1980. We still don't have health care. We still don't have a living wage. And we have people living under every bridge. We don't live in a democracy, which is why we can send $100 billion to the most corrupt country in Europe, while we still don't take care of our own people and they go bankrupt when they get sick. This idea that somehow one party cares about democracy while the others doesn't. You know, they both serve the same corporatocracy, an oligarchy run by corporations. And instead of having a dictator, the dictator has now been replaced with the nameless, faceless corporate state, which controls every part of our being. They control our free speech, what medical treatments we get to experience. The only difference between a Democrat and a Republican is the speed at which their knee hits the ground when a donor enters the room. We don't live in a goddamn democracy, you fucking moron, and you know it. But you don't want to admit it. You want to pretend because it makes you feel comfortable. What about January 6th was supposed to change our mind? A bunch of yahoos in pajama bottoms and buffalo helmets without guns taking a shit in Nancy Pelosi's office? That's what you thought was going to take over our country? That's why they didn't have security there on purpose? Well, so this very thing could happen, and so idiots like you can repeat it? You should be screaming about Citizens United and how corporate captured our government is, because the Democrats have complete control of the party right now, of government, yet they're not talking about getting rid of corporate money in government, which is the thing that actually takes us from a democracy to an oligarchy.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
Honest to God.
So, Jimmy's class, I'm a huge fan. He's very smart, very quick. He's a comedian. Comedians are class like that, aren't they? One of the... Jimmy talks there about Citizens United. To those of you that don't know what that is, Citizens United is a bill that was a law that was passed, which basically gives corporations human rights. And it's specifically in the terms of access to politics. So a corporation is allowed to make a donation to a political candidate, and they set up these things. They have a thing called super PACs. It's super and PAC, P-A-C, super PAC, all one word. And PAC is a political action campaign. That's what that means. That's what it stands for. So basically, do you ever see those ads on American? You know the ads on American TV for campaigners, and someone would be, my name is such, and I want gun rights and this, that, the other, and I approve this message, and it'll say underneath, paid for by the John Doe for governor super PAC or whatever. That's what that is. So you can then donate. Now, there's a limit to what you can donate as an individual, but a corporation can throw millions at them if they want. I think that's the way it works. And basically, what it was called Citizens United. That was the name of the bill. Basically, what it did was it completely corrupted American politics more in such an open and obvious way that it literally fucking tanked their democracy. And American elections are... What is the statistic? 95% of American politicians, whoever spends the most money, 95% of the time win, right? So it costs these midterms, it was something like $2 billion spent on advertising. The presidency costs, it's something like $4 billion to be elected a president. This is where we're getting up into. Now, where does that money go? It goes on advertising. It goes on political advisors and all this. So there's a whole big, massive industry. And this is a part, and the TV companies, they're not going to call it out because they're getting paid all the fucking time from these things. And it's just a constant cycle. That's the other thing with the politicians as well. They're in a constant fundraising cycle. Again, I don't know the statistic, but it's something like 60% of the time, an American politician will be on the phone begging donors to give him or her money. So you can see how it's basically, as a democracy, it's not functioning very well. And then what it's done is it's give complete control of the levers to the financial levers that these politicians need in order to stay elected. They give complete financial control to the corporations, and then the particular individuals within the political parties that control the money. So within the Democratic Party, the two big fundraisers is Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. One is leader of the party, one is leader of the was Nancy Pelosi's not the leader of the House anymore, I don't think. So they're massively successful fundraisers. So what they do is they then dole the money out to the politicians within their party, and it's a form of like whipping. Like you have in the House of Commons in England, you have the whips, and they will gather everybody up to make them vote a certain way. That's basically what you're doing. If you're doling out the money in America to the politicians that helps them stay elected, you're not getting the money for nothing. You're getting the money for your subservience, for your obedience, toe the party line. So that's kind of the way it is. But Jimmy there lays that out. So that's Citizens United. And then he references also the January the 6th, whenever those guys and girls, the MAGA people, went and stormed the Capitol building. Now, that was very suspicious right from the offset, because there was no security. Jimmy referenced it there. There was no security, but they knew it was going to happen. They knew that those people. They didn't know that they were going to storm the building, I suppose, but they knew they were going to be there. Now that's the highest seat of their democracy in America, the highest seat of democracy in America, and there was no security around that building, and they just walked in. I've seen. There was a Black Lives Matter protest last year. The whole building was ringed with security on the steps, 2 or 3 deep. These guys that look like fucking something out of Brave New World, all body armoured up. So, it is very suspicious, and I think it'll all come out in the wash, but, and the idea, it's being sold as if it's this big, massive insurgents. It wasn't. It was, as I agree with what Jimmy said, it's just a bunch of fucking yahoos that lost their shit, lost their, they're idiots anyway, but, whatever. So, anyway, so what he's trying to do there, and then these points are sold as the talking points for they don't say, vote for us, we will give you healthcare, vote for us, we will ensure that our LGBTQ brothers and sisters have this or that. They don't do it. It's important that you vote for us to stop the other guy getting in. There's no promises been made. So there we go. Yeah, that's that done. I like Jimmy Dore. I'm very, very fond of Jimmy Dore. I listen to most of his stuff. So, the last story, and now I've gone around the world today and I've slagged off everybody, haven't I? So let's finish with our own. The DUP, the gift that keeps on giving. there's not an unshot foot when the DUP's in the room. Just get this teed up for you on the screen. So this is an article written by none other than Ben Lowry. Now, Ben Lowry is he writes for the Newsletter, which is a unionist public newspaper. You know, they would. I don't think they would deny that. So the other week, last week, Ian Paisley Jr. has introduced legislation into the House of Commons and you could see on the title card here that's up on, I'll show you it there. You can see he's carrying the goalposts. He's moving the goalposts. So that's basically what they're trying to do, is say that in order for a border poll to be successful, you have to have a majority of eligible voters. It's not just a 50 plus one, it's a majority of eligible voters. Now what that does is it ensures that no matter what happens, no one can leave the union. It applies to Scotland as well. Because the majority of eligible voters, all the unionists have to say is don't vote. And they can boycott the poll, and then that's it. The poll is null and void then. So he thought he was being clever, but then no one can accuse the DUP of being clever. Certainly not successfully clever. So Ben Lowry, again, a unionist himself, and it's not often he would write an article criticising these guys, but he's done it here. So let's get into this. It's not a long article either, so there we go. In attempting to strengthen the union, he weakened it, just as his party, the DUP, has been doing for years. The North Antrim MP's father said in 1996, "I'm a Democrat. I have made it clear that if the people were to vote for a united Ireland, I would accept it." Admittedly, that was a fairly easy thing to say at a point where it was clear that even in Dr. Paisley's long lifetime, there was no credible possibility that the majority in Northern Ireland would shift to support unity. Nevertheless, what the DUP founder said almost 3 decades ago was consistent with how unionism has viewed the basis for Northern Ireland's legitimacy since its foundation in 1921, where nationalists argued that partition was undemocratic because the huge majority on the island as a whole wanted independence from Britain. Unionism insisted that the concentration of unionists in the 6 northeastern counties meant they should be able to remain in the UK. In 1998, nationalism came to essentially accept that logic. Forcing a northern majority into United Ireland against their will would be impossible and probably undesirable, even if it could be done. However, Sinn Féin objected, and it was for this reason that the party did not sign up to the Good Friday Agreement with the other parties, only doing so weeks later as the shifting public mood became clear. 8 days after the Good Friday Agreement, after Good Friday in 1998, Gerry Adams told the Sinn Féin Ardèche that the other parties had already subscribed to a unionist veto, described euphemistically as consent, and we disagree with that position. The acceptance by nationalism of the principle of consent that Irish unity would only come about if a majority in Northern Ireland wanted that to be so was unquestionably David Trimble's greatest achievement for unionism in the 98 deal. This week it was not Sinn Féin, the SDLP or the Irish government that tried to undermine that key unionist achievement. It was the DUP. Mr Paisley tabled a private member's bill in the House of Commons which sought to rewrite the basis for Northern Ireland's existence. The referendum's supermajority bill attempts to alter the law so that a plebiscite on a major UK constitutional change could only succeed if a much higher percentage of voters supported such change. Mr Paisley has not yet defined what that majority should be, and the bill has not even been published in the House of Commons website. In many ways, neither of those factors matter, because this is fantasy legislation which will never get anywhere near the statute book. But in revealing the DUP's fantasy, it has undermined the union. And this is it. This is the important part, right? Whilst Irish unity is likely far further away than the public perceive, It is perception which counts in how this is viewed. I think it's well, I won't disagree with Ben there. I think Irish unity is closer. I'm worried that it's closer. I want it, but you know my point is the end comes quick. I'm worried that we're going to end up almost bounced into United Ireland when we're not ready. But anyway, among soft nationalists who might be persuaded to vote for the Union on pragmatic grounds, this is seen as a pathetically desperate attempt by unionism to move the goalposts, just as they were bearing down on an undefended goalmouth. Mark Durkan, one of the key SDLP negotiators in 1988, described Mr Paisley's proposal as another pretentious misadventure by the DUP. Among constitutionally unaligned voters, the cohort that will decide the outcome of a future border poll, remember I always said that? It's not me, it's not the loyalist or the unionist that's going to vote to stay in the union no matter what, or if someone like me is going to vote to reunify no matter what. It's the people in the middle. That middle ground, they're the ones that are going to make the decisions. So whenever you do something that doesn't appeal to them, when you see the clear goalpost moving that's going on here, and you're one of those people, what does it do to your opinion? What do you think? So, back to it. The idea looks similarly ham-fisted, giving credibility to the idea that unionism is worried about losing a referendum. Exactly. It is another example of Jamie Bryson acting as the DUP's de facto director of policy. The idea of requiring a supermajority in a border poll emerged from the loyalist activist in August, when he lodged with the Oireachtas a 5-page submission on behalf of Unionist Voice policy studies, arguing that the Good Friday Agreement does not specify the nature of the majority required for a border poll to be won by nationalism. So, Jamie Bryson, who's elected by nobody, this was his idea back in August. And he says his point, and he thinks he's being clever, it doesn't specify within the Good Friday Agreement what a majority means. Now, my contention is that a majority is defined by the dictionary definition of the word majority. The most of the people, it's a 50 plus 1 is a majority. So that's if 50 plus 1 was good enough for Brexit, then it's good enough for anything else, right? So that's what a majority is. So he says because it's not clearly defined, it's not defined in the Good Friday Agreement. Well, I can't believe this idea has gotten legs at all. I can't believe that this is even a thing. A majority is a majority. We know what a majority is. We don't need to define it because it's self-defining. It is the definition of itself. So, noting that it said a majority rather than the majority, Mr. Bryson argued that therefore plainly such a majority may legitimately be required to be a weighted or a supermajority. This is pathetic. This is pedantism at its worst. This is him thinking he's a lawyer. Because he does, he thinks he's a lawyer. This is where he lives in his head. He thinks he's a lawyer. And again, you know, I always talk about language and about listening for language, and you hear language, the same words being used across different platforms until it becomes, and you hear it over and over and over again, and you think it's your opinion. With him as well, he talks like fucking Gandalf when he tweets and he writes letters and stuff. He thinks he's something fancy, and you start to hear his language in other people, and you can see it straight away. And I'm starting to see now people call it out. So different politicians are starting to sound like him. He uses, what's that word he uses? He talks about subjugation. He uses that word a lot. Subjugation. The subjugation of Northern Ireland, or the what was it? Anyway, there's all the I can't just off the top of my head think of one right now when I need it, of course. But you see other people start to use his language. So therefore you know that he has the ear of these people. Now, who are these people? These people are elected politicians. And this fucking halfwit is telling them what to do, to think, to say. Why? Because he is a representative of loyalism. Loyalists in North Antrim, they're drug dealers. That's what. So this is the circle of people that are controlling the narratives that unionism and loyalism is pushing forward to represent itself. It's why, and this is why they have no credibility at all with anyone. So back to he said the Good Friday Agreement said a majority rather than the majority. So this is again pedantism. This is him trying to be a barrack room lawyer. That we can redefine that. Everybody knows what that means. This week, Mr. Paisley made an almost identical argument. Speaking on the Nolan Show, he said that the proposal would improve political stability, adding, let's have a protection in law that makes sure the overwhelming majority of people are agreed on change. Mr. Paisley asked, is that 50% plus one of those eligible to vote, or only 50% plus one of those who turn out to vote? That is what. All of a sudden, Mr. Paisley doesn't understand how elections work, doesn't understand how polls work, doesn't understand the definition of the word majority. Man's older than me. You think he would have figured that out by now? That is the difference, he says. That was the distinction of the Belfast Agreement made. It said about a majority of the people of Northern Ireland. It didn't say a majority of only those people who turned out to vote. This is what the precious Belfast Agreement says. There are two gaping holes in this idea. Ben Lowry. This is Ben Lowry now. The first is the claim that the agreement never stated a simple majority could deliver Irish unity. In fact, Schedule 1 of Annex A of the agreement says that the test for the calling of a mandatory border poll is that the Secretary of State must believe a majority of those voting would support Irish unity. It would be absurd to set that as the test if there was any possibility that the real threshold was 60 or 70% or whatever other number was acceptable to the DUP. And the Northern Ireland Act of 1998, the legislation which enacted the agreement, uses the phrase a majority to refer to MLA's voting in Stormont, something which has always been interpreted as a simple majority in line with the natural and ordinary meaning of those words. Right? As with the Belfast Agreement, when the government last called a border poll in 1973, Ted Heath used a majority and the majority interchangeably when he addressed the Commons. It's not that asking for a supermajority for momentous constitutional change is in itself improper. Several countries have such a rule, and Mr. Paisley highlighted the UK had done so for the Scottish referendum on devolution in 1979. That referendum saw a 51.6% vote for devolution, but with the rules requiring a majority of electors and not just a majority of voters to back the change, it fell. However, Northern Ireland was very different. It was founded on the principle that a majority of those within its border wanted the link with Britain to endure. The one referendum on the issue was fought on that basis, and it was the clear understanding of everyone involved in the 98 agreement that those were the rules. Trying to change that at a time when unionism is weaker than at any point in Northern Ireland's 101-year history not only looks desperate, but it doesn't stand up to basic logical or historical scrutiny. There is another aspect of this which is significant. Dismissing the idea that he is on some sort of solo run, Mr. Paisley made clear that Jeffrey Donaldson backs the idea, saying this has been endorsed by the party. It is increasingly following Mr. Bryson's lead. The DUP is not only exposing its own dearth of ideas, but it is wandering into extreme incoherence. Mr. Bryson has quite openly expressed his opposition to the agreement and has appeared to support an integrationist view of the union. At one extreme, such an ideology would say that the entire UK should have to decide before any one of its constituent nations leaves the Union, and thus Mr Bryson's argument is at least partly consistent with his own worldviews. But that is not the DUP's ideology. It is a devolutionist party, yet it often seems, through ignorance, making arguments that contradicts its own professed position. It is true, as Mr Paisley said this week, that senior nationalists have questioned the wisdom of a border poll bringing about a united Ireland, in which 49.9% of those in Northern Ireland had voted for the Union. 3 years ago, former SDLP Deputy First Minister Seamus Mallon warned that such a result could be murderous. A border poll held on a simplistic 50+1 format was one which won't work and is dangerous, he said. Leo Varadkar had similarly questioned the wisdom of Irish unity secured via a simple, narrow majority. So, skip on here. For unionism's biggest party to be putting its energy into this argument is self-defeating. The DUP is like a football team, which is 2 goals up, but where the team is standing, arguing with the referee about the rules rather than attempting to defend as the opposition pour forward into their half. Attempting to move the goalposts is tempting for young children insufficiently mature to accept that life involves losing as well as winning. It is not a credible political strategy, much less the basis on which a country can coherently exist. So there we go. What do you think? Let me know. Like, share, subscribe. So DUP's moving everything again, trying to move the goalposts as is their want. But again, my position, and I think it's one of the many reasons that we find the DUP to be so frustrating, is that the Northern Ireland Protocol is a concession to unionism. It literally is a concession to unionism. That's what it is. But they're so wedded to the right wing of the Tory ERG English nationalist lunatics that they refuse to allow us to have the protocol, which would be, for the first time, put Northern Ireland on the pig's back. And I believe, now it goes against my wants. I don't want Northern Ireland to stay within the United Kingdom. I want Northern Ireland to be united and free. I want Ireland to be united and free. But the Northern Ireland Protocol allows Northern Ireland to be the most successful country in the United Kingdom, a fulcrum and access to the United States, to Europe, to Britain, etc., etc. And we have that, and sitting right there. But the DUP don't care. Unionism doesn't care. All they want is, they set themselves up for failure by claiming that they wanted to be the same as the rest of the United Kingdom, when in fact the rest of the United Kingdom would want to be the same as us if we were allowed to exploit the benefits of the Northern Ireland Protocol. And then within that, unionism, Ulster unionism, can claim that as a success. They can say, look at the benefits of being within the union, look at what we've got. It was there for them to do, and they didn't do it. And it got so fucking abstract and weird that for a certain amount of time it was Sinn Féin. It was fucking making the argument that unionism should have been making. Absolutely insane. But anyway, there we go. That's the pod. We're all done. I hope you enjoyed that. Hope that was okay for you. Head over to Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Come to some of our gigs. Go over to thebonnevils.co.uk. You get tickets. A link for everything over there. And if you want to lend me your support, you can do that on Patreon for as little as £1 a month. So that's me. Done for the day. Politics, culture, and some other shit. Signing off. Toodles.